She stuffed 2 pairs of plastic booties and gloves in her pocket, then picked up her notebook and went around to the back door, reached in and unhooked the golden retriever's harness. He jumped down, sniffing the air. Dense eucalypt forest, large ferns shrouding the ground. It was far cooler up here, a welcome change from the stifling heat that had been trapped in the city over the last week. Zoe had hardly even seen a cloud since the start of November. "Let's get on with it." They were her first words in half an hour. With Ben 2 steps behind her, she walked towards the group of uniformed police who stood beside a gate draped in crime scene tape. They all stared at Harry. She was used to it now. The detective with the service dog was old gossip, but it didn't stop the uniforms gawking. The sergeant who stepped forward was about 50, brunette, with a sharp gaze that said she was all business. "Hi, Candace Weller from down at the Macedon station." "Morning. Zoe Mayer and Ben Tarrow. What's the situation?" "One victim, male, mid-50s. Appears to be a single gunshot wound to the chest. He's at the base of the memorial cross, about 200 metres that way." Candace pointed up the path past the police tape. "No weapon in sight." "Who found him?" Candace half-turned as an officer behind her raised his hand. "Joe Murphy," said Candace, waving him over. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with a strong jawline and a dazed expression. "G'day, Joe. What happened?" asked Zoe, shooting a glance at Ben. He nodded and opened his notebook. "We started getting calls to 000 around 1:40 a.m, reporting a gunshot somewhere on the mountain. At 2 a.m, we had more callers saying there was a second shot. I was already out on patrol, so I headed straight up here. But I couldn't find anyone anywhere. After the second shot, Tim Hughes and Mary Whelan..." Joe nodded at 2 other constables. "They shut the station to come up and search as well. Then we got some officers from Gisborne and Kyneton in too. None of us found anything. In the end, Tim suggested that we check around the memorial cross. I followed the path and found the guy. Checked for a pulse, but he was cactus. I called it in and scouted around for the shooter, but there was no one about. The ambos came up and pronounced him." "What time did you find the victim?" "Oh, around 2:40 a.m, give or take." "Okay, thanks. So, apart from you and the paramedics, has anyone else touched the body?" "No, just one of the paramedics and me. I was conscious about that. The paramedic who checked in was gloved up. I set up a perimeter about 20 metres back up the path. When the boss arrived," said Joe, glancing at Candace, "she moved the perimeter back here. No one's been down the path since." "Good," said Zoe. She looked at the constable Joe had pointed out. "Tim, what made you think of checking the cross?" Tim shrugged. "Dunno. Between the lot of us, we'd checked everywhere else we could think of." He was about 30, tall and thick-set, his voice gravelly. Joe fished out his notepad. "I got the names of the 2 paramedics, Wayne Foote and Katie Johinke, based in Woodend." Ben wrote down the names. "The other thing is that I know the dead guy," added Joe. "Well, I know who he is, at least." Zoe raised an eyebrow. "Okay, and..." "Name's Piers Johnson." "The fraud guy?" asked Ben, animated. "Yeah, well, he got off, but yeah, him. He got acquitted 6 months ago. It was huge news around here." "Looks like we have ourselves a motive," said Ben. "How much was it? Over $22 million? You sure it's him?" asked Zoe. "Yeah. He's got a property up here on the mountain." Joe pointed towards the northeast. "Big old stone mansion, maybe 8 kilometres down Mount Macedon Road. He called just before Christmas complaining about his neighbour and a party that was a bit too rowdy for his liking. Tim and I came up, and I remember that he was fairly, direct in telling us how to do our jobs. The neighbour's place was probably around 400 metres down the hill."